Welcome back to Digital Disruptions Dialogues. I'm Karina Quinn, your host for today's episode, Defending the Digital Frontier, the State of Cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is more critical than ever as businesses, governments, and individuals navigate an increasingly complex digital landscape. Joining me for this discussion are Chris Beckford, President and CEO of eTRANSERVICES, and Vince Frimpong, Information Systems Security Officer and Cybersecurity Expert. Together, we'll dive into the current state of cybersecurity, explore key challenges, and discuss strategies to build resilience against evolving digital threats. Whether you're part of an organization looking to strengthen your security posture or simply want to protect your personal digital footprint, this episode is packed with valuable insights you won't want to miss. Since Vince is new to the podcast, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and give us kind of a background that you have into cybersecurity?
Oh, Vince here. I am the ISO with eTRANSERVICES. I've been in cybersecurity close to 10 years now. What drove me to cyber was more of my friends. They've always talked about security and computer security. I have an undergrad in computer science, and so I've been intrigued about it. But for most part of it, my friends led me here. And since I got in, it's been an exciting journey. That's all I have.
Awesome. And thanks for being here today. And then we also have Chris Beckford. If you've listened to our previous two podcasts, you have already met him. But if not, if you're new to the podcast, Chris, if you want to give us a little intro and your experience with cybersecurity.
My name is Chris Beckford, and I'm the CEO of eTRANSERVICES. And I've been having experience in cybersecurity for numerous years, and multiple perspective, planning from the days of my time on active duty in the Marine Corps, serving as a cybersecurity SME for numerous programs and projects, to actually assisting in planning and execution of cyber work outside of eTRANSERVICES and within.
All right, awesome. And thank you both for being here today. Now we can kind of jump in and get started. I was thinking we could first talk about the cybersecurity landscape today. So my first question to you both is, do either of you know any key statistics on cyber attacks and their impact today?
Yeah, Chris, I'll leave it to you.
That may be a hard one to just kind of throw out a key statistic, but...
So from my little research, I do know that as of 2023, there was about $8 trillion in ransomware attack. And that's a huge number. And we're talking about $20 billion globally in the last 20 years. And so in order for us to really get into this, we need to invest financially into it, into our team for the proper amount. And that would be my key point for this.
As far as specific statistics, I think we can only estimate, because if we knew the actual numbers, then cyber would not be an issue, because then we would already identified where the actors are acting and the challenges that they're providing. But I don't know this specific metrics regarding cyber challenges, but I know there are a lot. There are a lot internal to organizations, and also internal to the government at large. And most of our time is spent reacting to cyber challenges rather than proactively planning for them.
And I know, Vince, you mentioned ransomware being a very big type of cyber threat, but what are some other common types of cyber threats that we're seeing today, such as ransomware or phishing, insider threats, and other types of threats?
I think the newest ones that's come up is the AI generated threats. Those are very interesting, and I'm yet to really have a full understanding of how it works, but I do know that it's pretty common now, and it still goes through the approach of phishing. The little bit I know, I understand that videos are sent out or links are sent out, and when you click on it, your images are collected and there's something generated through that. And so your voice is collected, your image is collected, and that's how they send these small details to your family to send monies over or to just grab data from your phone or your laptop or whatever it is and practically just share it.
Mm-hmm. Jumping off of that, I have heard about those scams where they're calling you, and if you pick up and give them any hello or any conversation, they'll pick up your voice and the AI will be able to generate a whole new conversation to scam family members asking for money using your voice. So that's really crazy that that is happening today.
I
Yeah.
think that is a bit debunked. It's almost a myth on that side.
Okay.
And the reason why I say it's a myth is because this is my voice now. I do have a little bit of code. So in order to actually access my accounts, let's just say even my bank accounts or even just reach my family, AI generating it, there's just flat tone to it. So you can tell that there's something wrong with my voice if you really know me. Now, if you haven't spoken to me in years, even the way words are said when you say hello, it's almost different. So there's a myth, that is, I wouldn't say a complete myth, but the truth to it is about 50%.
I make it as a general practice that I don't use the word yes when I talk to anybody on the phone that I don't know. Normally, I would get a random call because I get all types of marketing calls, and the person was, they normally initiate the conversation by, "Is this Chris Beckford?" And my answer is always, "May I help you?" Just as standard practice. I don't ever say, "Yes, this is Chris Beckford." It's always, "May I help you?" or "How can I help you?" Just because I don't want somebody recording me saying yes.
Okay. So see that just tells you that this person's been around the block a few times. They do understand because generally the answer would be, "Is this Karina?" Yes, it is. Right. But my approach to answering that is, "Who is this?" Right. So by saying that, I get you to introduce yourself and tell me what you're calling about. It makes it more transactional when it goes from, "Is this Vince?" and I say, "Who is this?" So whether it's a social call or a robocall, that's my way of just pushing the conversation aside.
Yeah. So I know that we kind of touched on AI being a big cyber threat now, but how else are cyber threats evolving and why is it critical to stay ahead of them?
I think it's in our everyday lives and it's getting more and more powerful. The most recent cyber event that I see happening is the toll scam on the phone. Now you have the federal government out there telling people, beware of this, track it, don't respond, reject the call, all types of ways of dealing with it. But somehow, an organization or organizations manage to infiltrate our systems, got a hold of individual phone numbers, and is able to reach out to a vast percentage of the country, while the government is focused on TikTok and what ByteDance is doing. You know, somebody has all of our information as it relates to us registering for RFID device that enable us to use the toll system within the country. So if that's been infiltrated, so that means that we are tracked. We're able to be tracked not only on the highway, because now there's some entity that has our personal cell. And once you tie the cell geolocation to a Google Earth, you know where every single one of us are, not just on the highway. So that should be more disturbing to any of the citizens of the country, um, rather than just be focused on what ByteDance is doing with, crazy kids dancing. The toll system has been infiltrated, and every single American who received that text messages, uh, they're trackable. That is what's dangerous. That is a realistic present day cyber threat that is more important than TikTok.
It's incredible you say that, because that was my first thought the minute I got the threat. I got a text, and I asked myself if this person could actually see me right now, could just know where I'm moving, and that's a lot of data collected and sold easily, right? Currently in marketing, and just by way of knowing where I live, you're able to just pick up on all of these and just send them out, sell them out there for cents, right? Um, about TikTok, and I think that's a general distraction. And
Yeah.
thus far, I'm yet to receive a text message from NYC toll booths or anything like that telling me to disregard this. And so my action was to just call them and deactivate my account. And the deactivation process is really difficult. It isn't just I'm calling to just cancel this. They want to know um, where you used to live, where you currently live, how often you've used whatever the toll system the last few years, and these are numbers that you can barely track unless you have an online presence. And so for me, I stayed on just to make sure that my family isn't tracked in any way. I mean, we've been tracked some way somewhere else, but not through this.
But I think that's very disturbing, that the amount of information that we have out there, and with the present day AI capability, it's easy to combine this information. And I'm not sure, what the percentage is as far as people within the country that's received uh, these texts associated with the tolls, but at least based on what the news report is saying, there's a lot. And the impact, I think, can be extremely significant. So that's just on our everyday life. And we're not even talking about, what is happening on our machines that we're using, whether it's a mobile device, a home device. Um, if we would estimate that at least 20% of our networks have been infiltrated, uh, that means that almost 20% of all devices, or even higher, have been compromised.
That's true. That's true.
So now we have this natural trust and this natural awareness, and our natural gravitation towards what's free, uh, i.e., Google. Google is free, but it's not. You have to give something up to get that freeness. So all of our pictures with the metadata in it, is being collected, and it tells a story. It tells information about our location, where we vacation, where we go to, where we travel every time we're on the highway. So that freeness, um, means we're giving up a lot of information to marketing, a lot of info. I know my Alexa device is a spy. Um,
Yeah.
it's monitoring your phone. One of the things that we should worry about is, why is it that I can't take the battery out of my phone? Because it was a coordinating marketing effort for you, to be monitored.
Wow. I Okay. Please tell me more.
Because the reality is, you can't turn the phone off. Even when it's off, it's on. So at some level, that was coordinated, so you can flip a switch and turn it off.
So my question to you is, for the patent industry, who governs it? and how do we, as just a regular everyday people, how do we protect ourselves from all of this?
I think the consumer is limited on what they can, because I don't know of anybody that has ever read the fine prints associated with you using your mobile device.
No one person, but I'm not going
No,
to talk
no,
about the person.
nobody. And when we're talking about interstate commerce, some of that has been regulated by the government. But who's reviewing the fine prints that basically says what you're giving up? When Google said they randomize
We'll use it.
data, what exactly does that mean? Can it be reassembled? Yes, if it can be randomized, it can be reassembled. So we need to take a look at cyber from a bigger national strategic perspective. Some countries they can just lock the entire internet down. But
Yeah,
U.S. tried to block
Pakistan.
TikTok.
I,
How well did that work? Because I'm listening to my kids telling me that kids, as soon as the U.S. says that they were going to block it, the kids are using, they jumped over to VPN and registered in other countries.
and that's one of the challenges that, whenever we say we are trying to, with TikTok per se, we are trying to ban TikTok entirely. My question is, ban it from what? From whom? I understand, I don't want to sound like a propagandist or anything like that. I don't believe in that. But the Chinese government sort of controls its people, what they view. But even just in your household, Chris, wouldn't you want to control the things that, doesn't it boil down to you on what you allow into your home by virtue of what your family would look at, would view, would take in?
Yes, but you're also limited on what you can control, because if you have a device with all the apps that are out there, well, which ones have been vetted and vetted by whom? Which ones share data? All of them. Something as simple as from a larger picture cyber perspective. If you go to, I'll use Walmart for example. You go to Walmart and you buy a TV set at Walmart. It's probably going to be Vizio or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
How many people know that? I think Walmart now owns Vizio.
News to me.
So now there's millions of devices for Walmart to market to. So now when Walmart's compromised, not only, do the people that compromise them have your registration data associated with your TV, now they have your purchasing habits and everything else. So we have to look at how things are connected. And cyber security isn't just protecting the device, it is also the appliance associated with the Internet of Things that the regular citizen or consumer is not thinking about. Because the reason for you registering that device, that Vizio TV, is to make sure it's covered by warranty. That's what they tell you. But you're giving up a lot of information to make sure that from a warranty and recall perspective, they can get a hold of you. And then on the back end, somebody is using that for marketing, which expose you to additional cyber risk.
So, Karina, there's an inside joke between Chris and I. I keep saying that he sees the bigger picture. He has the bigger picture, and I sort of just peek through a window, and in fact, not a whole window, just a shutter in the window. Uh, this I haven't thought about. I haven't thought about. I mean, we already saw a lot of products just so for warranty purposes. We buy from the Costco's, from the Sam's Clubs, and we have these extended warranties. So my question is to you, Chris. My question is, if my warranty's supposed to last what, 3 years, right? Um, for that 3 year duration, I know my information is being sold. Now, after the 3 years, what happens?
So you register, And the organization, this is why the fine prints become very important. You register, somebody has your information. They're not holding on to it. They're selling your information. They're reselling your information. So that singular registration could mean your data is now in 15 other marketing organizations. It's being sold all across the country and all across the world. If you're dealing with a multinational company, your data may be everywhere. And then it gets to the lowest common denominator, maybe mom and pop marketing agency.
Yes.
And then they don't have the requisite security in place. And then when it's compromised, then it's everywhere. And then in whose hands, and how do you get that back? You
Do
can't
you ever get it back?
because
Do you
as
ever
soon
get
as
it back?
you can't. So we must also, as a nation, take a look at the bigger picture associated with certain things, and maybe once in a while, every few years, whatever that few means. Is it every 10 years? Is it every 5 years? Every 7 years? We literally go in and cancel our credit cards and get new numbers. Not necessarily cancel the cards, just get new numbers and reboot the system that we know has been compromised and get a fresh start on what is to be compromised. So from a cyber perspective, we normally look at cybersecurity from a security network infrastructure perspective. Well, now we need to look at it from a social perspective and from just the cost of living perspective. Because if you have the same credit card number for the past 15 years, you've been compromised. You just don't know it. When I think Cash App was compromised, they reach out to you and tell you, hey, if you use Cash App, you need to register and do whatever you need to do. Okay, well, the people that stole the information from Cash App, they're going to wait 2-3 years before they use it. The impact is not going to be immediate. Why would you steal the information, use it immediately?
All right. So now I have the next question in mind, and I'm more intrigued by this because for a long time when we talk about cyber, and I talk to my kids about cyber all the time, on their iPads and the rest of it, we discuss what's important, what's not, what to ignore. But how do we educate people on the socioeconomic aspect of cyber? What it connects to, not just on the networking aspect of it.
Nothing's free. So we start with that. If you have to give up any type of information, there's a cost to it. So the first thing I think all of us have to ask is, okay, when I give this information up, what's going to happen to it? There's a supply chain that's associated with data, and whether we like it or not, data is the new currency. The dollar is not that powerful anymore. It's the data. The data is the currency. So knowing that majority of our data has already been compromised, kids who can't even access or use devices from the day you were born, you're registered, you've got a social security number, you're compromised immediately.
Oh.
And then you spend the next 18 years with that number that's assigned to you.
So again, that's just mind-blowing.
From a cyber perspective, and I've done this, first thing I've done is block my kids' social security number. It'll be reactivated when they turn 18.
How do you do that?
Oh, you can go to Social Security Administration and block the same way you block yours. No charges can be made. No account can be created with the use of that Social Security number. And then you get the paperwork. Oh yeah, there's an entire process of removing yourself from having a credit issued in your name using your Social Security number by blocking your Social Security number. Same thing can happen for some of these within the country. Most people don't understand. You shouldn't be. You can't. You could be worried about the credit card companies, but that's not who you really should be concerned about. You should be really concerned about the data brokers. You can get your information removed from the data brokers. Organizations like Delete Me and others, that's what they do. They remove you from data brokers. Data brokers are the ones that they're like the stock market for data. They're the one that sell, trade data. So from a bigger cyber perspective, it starts there, because if somebody's going to steal your information from the government, they're going to use it because it provides some level of commercial value. They're not just going to hack the system to get access to something. They're going to hack the system because your data, your currency, represents some type of commercial value to them.
Okay, so I'll first go in the post office for all the junk mail I receive. I know they sell them, but to the general public, to the 10-year-old who's up and coming and understanding how to use devices, what will be your advice to them for the 15-year-old who is accepting everything on their device, for the 18-year-old off to college who's just about to start their life all over? What would be your advice to them?
So there's an intrinsic relationship between the device manufacturers and the marketing industry, where the device manufacturers don't make it easy for you to basically lock down and control the devices. The app manufacturers, the social media manufacturers, they purposefully make it where parental control is hard to implement.
Yes.
So a combination between the device manufacturer and the app that runs on those devices, they're designed specifically to get access to as much free information as possible. Some of these social medias, they're designed to with inferences in mind. Well, you know this person, therefore you know this person, therefore this person has a relationship between this person. Then somebody will contact you and say, hey, I'm your cousin, sister's uncle, boyfriend's friend, because of connections. Automatically right there, you think they're the only one that's monitoring that data?
Big question. That's a no. I know the answer. No, that's no. And to learn off of that, what's the name? So I use an Apple phone. Every device in my house is an Apple device, mostly. And some of the things that I see on it, it pops up and just tells you, do not track me. Do not. I don't think that is that effective. How effective is that, in your opinion?
I don't think it's that effective, because you can, the device is the device, the app manufacturer is the app manufacturer, and the laws of the nation basically aren't really holding anybody responsible.
Talking about holding responsible, again, this is I know what's the name? Meta, Facebook has been held responsible for a lot of breaches in Europe. How do we apply this to our local lives here? How do we apply a lot of pressure on Facebook to stop selling our data from here? Not just a whole country, just from our local perspective.
That I have no. There are ways. Well, first of all, if you don't want your data out there, you can always crawl under a rock, and your data will never make it out there. You can get off the grid, but no matter how you can remove yourself from social media, delete your account. But as soon as you get on one device, it's just a matter of time before your information. You sign up for Facebook, you automatically sign up for all their other apps within that company.
Yeah.
Although you don't want them and you didn't register for them, you're out there. So we have to look at the end of the day, what this comes down to is business, and what is the best practices that are in the interest of the business. And those businesses, security is and protection of the individual is not really in their best practice. It's actually in the best practice of the business to basically federate data. So when we look at cybersecurity, just to get back on topic, when we look at cybersecurity from a proactive and risk approach to in a way to try to prevent exploitation, we put the minimum amount of data that's necessary out there. Um, uh, Maybe we have to look at, email addresses. Maybe we have to look at, marketing email addresses, knowing that that's where all your junk's going to go. Put filters in place, minimize who can access your real email addresses. That's the email address that you use on a day-to-day basis. Because if you're using a free email, it's not free. Everything you send, everything you receive, is being audited at some level. So, from a defense perspective or a defense in depth perspective, maybe we need to segment our lives into professional emails, or we have to get to the point where, most people don't want to get to. You have to pay for email services, and that provides an additional layer of support. And so when we look at some of these social medias that provide free, and free, it's not really free. They're going to pretty soon start coming out with premium capability that allows you to get yourself out of the marketing, random marketing. For example, on your mobile device or on your laptop or desktop, you can't control the marketing. You can't control the ads. You can maybe change the focus of the marketing or the ads, but you can't stop it. You're not paying for the app. Therefore, you will get all the marketing. And unless they come out with some type of premium edition where you're not subjected to marketing, almost like what Netflix did. You want Netflix premium, okay, you get to skip the commercials. Other than that, you're into all your devices are nothing but commercial factories.
So talking about that, I know we've talked about TikTok twice already. When in the last year before TikTok's ban, I noticed that I used to get videos from friends, and I could easily jump onto TikTok and just scroll through and spend 30 minutes just looking at videos without any restrictions. Now, Instagram did something with it. Instagram said, you can only look at 3 videos or 4 videos, and then you have to sign up. Up until recently, and I say this as of January, my friends sent me TikTok videos, and because I didn't have a TikTok account, I couldn't watch the videos. Is this a better way to sort of restrict or protect your data?
Getting off the devices and the apps, deregistering limits your data, but it doesn't stop the possible compromise that may happen out there. And we're just talking about one medium. The other medium is the school system. You register your kids in school, all the online education app, all the the things that were put in place with best practice in place for COVID. When's the last time when do you find out your school system's been compromised? The school computer system, when somebody's information is really compromised and they yell, then the school has to notify everybody. Other than that, states are strapped. Their budgets are strapped. How much is being invested in actual security in the various schools and districts and municipalities? So that has a way of getting into your house, which gets into your professional lives. We have households with a computer. We have households with multiple devices, and everybody use the same computer or the same devices. And if you're sharing a device with your kids, I know from a cyber perspective, put them on a separate network.
Stress on that. I know this, but just for our listeners, could you please stress on putting them on a separate network?
Yeah, because they click everything. So what they have is information. What they don't have is, in many cases, knowledge, and what they certainly don't have is wisdom.
Okay.
So you have to connect the pieces to get to wisdom, and they're no wise teenagers. They're knowledgeable teenagers, and they have information, but they certainly do not have any wisdom. So therefore, they belong on a separate network where their damage can be contained.
Okay. All right. Now that's actually something that I'm going to do right now when I get off this.
So sometimes you can't monitor everything, but you can contain it.
I did want to change the perspective to more to be more of a business perspective in cybersecurity. So just wanted to jump in and say, how do employees and individuals play a role in maintaining cybersecurity for an organization?
Awareness. We have a series of training that's mandatory within eTRANSERVICES Cyber Awareness Challenge that DoD puts out, and a few others. PII, if you're going to send PII, you encrypt it, or you try your best not to send it. You don't store CUI information. It may be unclassified, but it may be, what's unclassified. Well, there's no classification associated with it, but the fact that you put your full name out there, and then maybe your location, that's a threat by itself. So, the initial view of life is, well, you don't want to put this type of information out there. Well, we may have to take a secondary look at that, and now saying, it's not just the combination of these information, it's almost any information that's out there, because I take a picture and I say, hey, this is a picture of my backyard, and I'm like, I'm going to share with an employee. Okay, and then somebody else get a hold of that picture and pull the metadata from that picture. So now they have your name and your address and your physical location. So the unintended exploitation is something that, people should consider. Does everybody know how to, clean a picture, remove the metadata from it? No, you take a picture and you send it. But, with the advent of technology being so powerful, maybe we have to get a little bit smarter.
I agree with you, Chris, 100%.
Yeah, and you mentioned awareness. So what are the key steps to building a culture of security, including awareness?
Training, and just also communication, constant communication. Because if an employee or a contractor can approach somebody in a leadership position, say, hey, I saw this, I thought it was kind of weird. Just seeing something is like, yeah, I thought it was kind of weird that, I'm getting emails that saying that you wanted us to re-verify our I-9. Well, we just did that with HR. Why would you be asking that question? So that association between function and information, well, it may not be classified, but we all have a need to know. So why would, this person be asking for this information? That's not in their job description. And then you look at, well, is it really that person that's requesting it? Look at the header, look at the email. Who is it really from? The new one I saw is from the name, and the domain is .govv. Pretty convincing.
I do think that this is something that you stress on a lot, Chris. So here at eTRANSERVICES, what Chris does stress on every time in every town hall, and plus most of our conversations, is that you should always be aware of phishing. Whatever you see that is suspicious, just report it. And I've had a chance to actually receive a couple of emails from the team, but it's unfamiliar to me. And so I quickly reached back to Chris or whoever is in charge, and I'm like, hey, look, I received this email. Is this legit? When they affirm it, that makes sense to me.
Yep, exactly. And how can organizations practice proactive risk management and identify vulnerabilities before they're exploited?
I think it comes down to the inventory. And when I say the inventory is, what do you have? And the previous discussion was about architectures and enterprise architecture. But we also have to look at things from an organization perspective, an organizational architecture. So if you're going to have risk, what are those risks? And back to need to know, relationships. Normally we talk about entity relationships. Now we're talking about people and relationships between people. So organizations have to consider its overall architecture, organizational structure, and the risks that are associated with that. Because it's easy to for somebody in a leadership capacity to say, I want this, this, and this, and they'll get it. What we also have to think through is, well, maybe you need access to the information. Maybe you don't need the information sent to you. So instead of sending information, maybe we should send links to information. So it minimizes the risk. So if that link or that email is compromised, well, for the third party, this is where the multi-factor authentication would basically jump in and say, hey, it's great that you have the link, but now authenticate yourself. That happens within organizations. So you get the email, that's great. Now to access the information, you now have to authenticate. Who are you? And do we have you registered? So these are basic things that organizations can do rather than just send information. We provide links to information or have systems talk to systems, which is a challenge by itself because most systems are designed with proprietary intent in place.
So earlier we talked about the emerging trends of AI cyber threats that are coming up recently. How is AI and machine learning being used to detect and prevent cyber threats?
I think there's a lot of smart systems out there and a lot of smart capabilities out there. And it depends on how you define what a cyber threat is, because it's one thing to detect actual pieces of information that should not necessarily be shared. It's another thing to look at the various controls that are in place on devices and say, this device should not have this type of information on it or stored on it. That's where it gets more difficult because most systems don't, even some of the smarter AI capabilities, they don't have that. They're able to detect what's out there or what's maybe in a folder. Okay, now let's look at the device itself. What's on the device? And based on the quote role-based access control, it's great. I know who you are, but you, based on your role, should not have access to this information. So why is it on your device? And when I do find it on a device, what should I do? That's one of the unanswered questions as it relates to AI. Because if the AI is actually really that smart, it would be, yeah, you're a clerk or a data analyst that is working on this project. Why do you have the CEO's social security number downloaded on your device? So when you start putting the pieces together and the entity and the relationships and the role-based and the desire to document role-based access control, AI is not there yet. It's maturing, but it's not there.
So talking about AI, I have a few friends in the government sector and the private sector, and as of December 2024, a lot of them had ChatGPT on their government issues devices, and I was talking to one of them last week, and like, hey, they just told me they don't have access to any of that anymore, even Microsoft Copilot, which powers a lot of the government issued devices. They can barely use it to rephrase or rewrite whatever it is that they want to do, rewrite. I think that's a very big step in protecting data on the government side.
But what it also does is these smaller AI tool, Microsoft Copilot, you know, how much time does it save you? How does that Chat GPT enhance your productivity? So we can take the tool away with security in mind, but at what price? Yeah, what is the cost? Because I need this. I can write up a paragraph on something and throw it into Chat GPT and basically say, okay, well, give this back to me and in a way where it fix the grammar issues or it makes better sense. Give me another perspective on it. It saved me a lot of time in routing and you know me needing to hire a text editor. So back again, at what cost? When we take away these assisted technologies.
I think that there aren't that many people out there who can give a definite answer on it because the cost is you are signing up to it. Chat GPT, for you to even access for you to access it, you need to sign up for it, right? And that's basic information, your email address and the password. But I noticed that a lot of my friends on the private sector actually have all of these AI companies blocked, AI tools blocked from their devices. So you can't use a Chat GPT on, say, a KPMG employee's laptop or a KPMG employee's issued phone. Like, is it something that companies can implement on their small level to protect that?
The answer is yes. But it also comes down to a part of the risk management strategy for the company too. Because if you put it in Chat GPT, obviously you're giving it to somebody.
That's correct.
And is that information that we can take risk with? That's the thing that we have to concern ourselves about. What is the risk associated with the information getting out there?
I think it's a high risk the exposure to it. Just imagine just drafting a simple email and putting it in the company's name in Chat GPT. That just means Chat GPT has access to what the company is about, where it's located, and if you have privy to phishing information, then once ChatGPT is able to just sell that data out there, whatever happens to you exposes the entire company as well.
All right. And how has the shift to cloud computing changed cybersecurity strategies?
I mean, I don't think, 15 years ago back, or even back in 2010 when Vivek Kundra started pushing mandatory, his cloud first strategy. You had a choice. You don't have a choice now. If it's not in the cloud, it's probably not a good investment.
I'm thinking about how vulnerable we are. We're just putting everything out there. Yeah, I'm still old school. I still save stuff on my personal devices. I still write my addresses down in the book.
Now let's look at this from the perspective of scalability. So you write things down into your book. How do you scale that book?
Truth is, anybody who walks in here, who gets a chance to walk, well, there's not my office, but who gets a chance to walk into this office will get access to that book.
Exactly.
I would assume, and that's a general thing. We all assume that there are harmless people out there, including the people I live with.
That's your insider threat.
Yes.
I feel more secure keeping it in my local library, my local data center, my local book. But then the world has changed where I need to scale. So now you're traveling and you're in Maui and you're like, I need to get a hold of Aunt, Howell's phone number. But does that mean you get on an airplane and fly back and get to go look, access it, does
no.
or does it make better sense to have it in a secure cloud encrypted environment where you can access it when you need it, and maybe your spouse or other partners or business partners can access the same information, and just in case Aunt Powell moves and she didn't get a hold of you, but she spoke to your wife or she spoke to your other business partner, she can update that information. So whenever you need to call Aunt Powell, that information is accurate and updated, but yet secured.
Okay, so that brings me to passkeys and passkey on my Apple device, and sometimes when I'm logging in on my laptop, I'm not sure if it's a browser or someone asked me if they can save that information. I mean, I could go back and manage it in my system, but the question is, based on my paranoia, how secure is that?
And how, I guess the next thing would be, how secure is anything?
I have asked that question a million times. I'm still drawing blank.
And it comes down to the security, the credibility of the means of security. For example, when you go on, and I'll use Amazon, for example, you go on Amazon to go buy something, and one of the things that you're going to check is, well, how many other people bought it, and what did they feel about it? What they think about it? Was it usable? Did it break often? So you're doing your assessment as you consider the acquisition based on the other information that's out there. So that's you're automatically doing it. You're doing the analysis of alternative. You're going through a full acquisition process at a very rapid rate. And at some point, you're going to decide, well, I'm going to buy it. Same thing from a cyber perspective. Well, I'm going to buy it, or I'm going to put my information out here. Well, let me think about the solution that I'm about to use. What do other people think about it? Well, it's brand new. It doesn't have any. Well, shoot, then we have to look into more than just what other people think. I have to look at, AES, 256. Man, maybe I want something higher than that. I go to put my password in and it says you're limited to 8 character. Maybe that's not something I need to use. If I try to use special characters and it tells me, well, you can't use special characters. Definitely something I don't want to use. You do these rudimentary reviews, and then it's like, well, I'm going to use something to secure my password. Well, your password can be no more than 15 characters. Well, I don't want to use it then, because maybe I don't want to use a password. Maybe I want to use a passphrase because I want to make it difficult. So you automatically bring yourself to certain conclusions. And then if you think, okay, what exactly is good enough? Then if you're willing to accept the risk associated with what is good enough, then you take it. But there's a level of risk that all of us have to take.
I'm tracking.
Is anything really safe? No, because the fact is, if it's been created by man, it can be broken by man. If it's been created by machine, it can be broken by machine.
I hear a lot about zero trust architecture. So, what is zero trust architecture and why has it become increasingly important?
Is it really zero trust? That zero trust is basically saying, I'm pretty safe because the risks have been mitigated from an internal and external perspective. And there's a series of challenges that are in place to minimize risk. So, who do I trust? I trust no one, not even myself. So there's a series of steps that are in place to basically trigger certain actions to make sure that that device, that level of access, that appliance unless there's a relationship that's been validated between a single or multiple appliances, nothing is actually trusted. Everything must be vetted. And some of that vetting happens in the supply chain um, as the device come to market. For example, we have zero trust architecture. But is it a zero trust architecture or maybe a zero trust ecosystem? I'd rather say it's an ecosystem, but the network guys put it out there, so it's an architecture. So the zero trust ecosystem is basically the hardware, the firmware, the software, and the apps working together in unity. Anything else that needs to come in or out must be vetted. But if it stays within the ecosystem, movement of information or data is pretty transparent.
Without giving away any specific client names, what has eTRANSERVICES done to protect the cybersecurity of other businesses and clients?
I think we've done a lot, especially within the government space and also commercially too, because within the government space, we've secured systems, we've assessed risk, we've document risk, we've document procedures necessary to protect data. On the commercial side, we've put systems in place that are cloud-based. We've built cloud infrastructures. We've secured those infrastructure. We've implemented infrastructure as code, software as a service, infrastructure as a service, and all those provide various benefits to clients. Role-based access control, limit access down to the field levels. These are things that we've done to enable our clients using various technologies or various combination of technologies. And probably the most powerful two words there, or three words, is combination of technologies. That provides a level of variance, but it also provides a level of security. And earlier we hit on zero trust, but maybe it's not a good idea to have a infrastructure made of the same thing. All your appliances are the same. Your antiviruses can be put out by the same manufacturer. Your updates, your monitoring by the same organization. Maybe a mix of technology is a good thing, even in a zero trust environment.
So I just want to pass the floor over to both of you if you have any other closing remarks or last things you want to say about cybersecurity.
Be vigilant. Just be on the lookout. Careful what you sign up for. That's all.
I would end by saying nothing is free. So it starts with that. It starts with the fact that absolutely nothing is free. You're going to have to give something up. And what you're giving up is data. You're giving access to is data. Whether it's to support marketing is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And your data is necessary for marketing. So we can talk about technologies and high technologies associated with cyber and relating to cybersecurity. But, I'd put something out there and say, remember the old days of having coupons, and you would take the coupon to a store and you would get, 50% off, 15% off something. That was marketing. So you're getting a discount, but you're giving something up. You're giving up where you're shopping and what you're buying and how many of what you're buying. But it wasn't tied to you at that time. It was random. Then now we've done the same thing, except we've making digital. But now it's tied to you. It's what are you buying? How often are you buying it? And if you buy this, what's the probability of you buying this? If you access this, what's the probability of you access this? And the machine and the technology basically develop and put you as a pattern. And you're a pattern. That's what you are. You're a pattern. And based on your pattern, you're most likely will do this and buy this and do these things at various intervals, whether it's going on vacation during the summertime or the wintertime. And the cruise ship industry will reach out to you. Well, how would they know that? I don't know. Who did you book your last vacation through? How often did you use them? What did you search for? So your actions enable your cyber vulnerability.
Well said, Chris. Well said.
Awesome. Okay, I don't have anything else for you today. So thank you both for being here with us and sharing your insights on the state of cybersecurity today and how to keep individuals and organizations protected. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to this episode of Digital Disruptions Dialogues. I hope today's conversation has offered you insights and strategies to think critically about your approach to cybersecurity. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast for more discussions on the challenges and opportunities of the digital age. Until next time.